Right. Oh, God, that was so loud. Hands up who's here because I put Rihanna in the title. A couple of people. Okay, that's good. An extra special surprise for you all today. My special guest is not Rihanna, it's just me. I'm sorry. But look, my name's Jack. I work for a company called Tong. I'll explain who we are in a minute. But I've dedicated most of my career to helping brands understand the Chinese e-commerce and marketing space and help them enter that market. So today we're going to be looking at what Rihanna's been doing in China and see what we can learn from her about how you could help your clients if they are brands, or if you're a brand yourself, how you could enter the Chinese e-commerce market. There's not going to be too many pictures of Rihanna, I promise, just a couple. I've made some terrible jokes on the agenda. If you know all the songs, feel free to sing. I'm not going to, but enjoy it. So we're just going to do a little bit of an introduction to Tong. We're going to talk about China's digital ecosystem, talk about sales and marketing a little bit, and three big trends. So three things we can learn from Rihanna: live streaming, social commerce, and then pushing your brand, doing brand marketing. So why? Why on earth are we talking about Rihanna? Some of you may know she has a brand called Fenty Beauty. Fenty is a global phenomenon. They've done an unbelievable job of building a brand. They've got a brand ambassador called Rihanna, who I think does a lot of the heavy lifting on the marketing for them. But she recently went to China for the first time and took part in some live streaming that was on various platforms, but it was for the 618 festival, which is in June. It's like a big e-commerce sales festival, a bit Black Friday-esque. And she took part in a few live streams, some other marketing activities. So I'm just going to play this little video of it to give you an idea of what was going on. I think a couple of things to notice. Number one, the number of comments that are just obviously flying in because Rihanna's there. There is also live AI captioning of what she's saying in English into Chinese, and the translation is like okay, but considering it's like very, very quick, it's a really impressive deployment of that technology.
Well, first I wanted to say hello, China. Thank you so much. I have been dying to come here and bring Fenty Beauty here for so long. It seemed like it took forever and it was so far away, but it happened so quickly, and I'm so glad we finally made it here. We had fun, and we're still having fun, and now I have to come back.
So yeah, it went on for hours. Obviously, we're not going to watch the whole thing, but if you've not seen a live stream in China before, there's a few things you can see. So you've got the number of people watching up here. That means 40,000 people were watching at that particular moment. Here's the product she's selling, which she's applying to her co-host's mouth there, to her lips. This is the number that have sold so far since she started selling it. That must have been quite early on as she was starting on that particular product, because it's only at 136, but it really builds a sense of demand throughout the live streaming to see the live sales figures as it's happening. And you can see over here, so she's got another 30,000. This is on a different, that's on Douyin as well, and this is on Douyin. So most of them are on the Chinese equivalent of TikTok, where she was taking part in some pretty major live streams as part of this festival. It's kind of an interesting story with the background of one of her songs. So We Found Love, which is one of her most famous songs, got kind of mistranslated into Chinese by online young people into Weifang Ai, which sounds like love in Weifang, which is a city in China. So she was talking to a lot of people about that. She promised to visit the city. She also has earned this nickname. Weifang is in Shandong province. She's known as the Diva of Shandong in China for that reason. And there's a particularly famous food from that area called a jianbing. It's like a pancake. And as part of a visit, she did make one of those pancakes as well and ate it as part of like a marketing stunt to show that she was engaging with the local culture. So a few things to learn from it. She went along with the with what was being said about her already, right? None of it was negative. It was all just kind of playful online stuff, and she really lent into it to capture the attention that was going to be able to do. And she went to where the consumers are with the live streaming. So she listened to her team. I assume she didn't make the decision herself, but she listened to the team and went into China with a goal of reaching the most people possible, and that was what she achieved.
Well,
okay, that's enough. So Tong Global, we're a cross-cultural agency, and we work with, so slightly odd line break there, we work with communities inside and outside of China. So our name Tong means to inform, open, and communicate. We both help Western brands to market their products to Chinese consumers wherever they are in the world. So they could be here in the UK, they could be in China, they could be in the Middle East. There's a huge Chinese diaspora around the world, as well as helping Chinese brands come out of China to the rest of the world, which is an increasing trend. We're celebrating our 10th birthday this year, which we're very proud of. And we've got a really cool team here in London. One of our big kind of cultural goals as a team is to let everybody explore their interests and infuse it into their work. A lot of what we're doing is creative marketing on behalf of really cool brands. If we've got people who have side interests in particular types of art or particular types of cinema, we really want them to indulge that as part of their work as well and bring like that extra experience, artistic creativity into what we do. Just because I'm keeping an eye on time, here's the logo wall. You get one of these in every presentation, right? But we've worked with over 100, I think it's over 120 now, different brands. Some pretty famous ones from the UK to help them reach China. There's no Chinese brands on here because I didn't update it, but we've just done a big project for Hey Tea, who are a Chinese tea brand who have recently opened 10 stores in the UK, and we've been helping them to kind of try and cement their customer base here in the UK. These are the kind of services we offer. So falls into 3 major categories. Create on the far side there is creative strategy, creating assets. China has a lot of specific requirements. Connect is the biggest part of it, so that's actually getting you in front of Chinese customers through digital marketing. And then consulting as well. A lot of people come to us and say, oh, we want to do China, but we've got absolutely no idea where to start. Or we're already in China, it's not quite working. What can we do to figure it out? And we'll work collaboratively with people to help them understand what their next steps are, how to build a better proposition for the market. So China's digital ecosystem is a little bit different. So there'll definitely be some of you in the audience who know, maybe not. Others that most of the platforms that we use over here aren't widely used, or to an extreme level don't work in China. So there's no Google, there's none of the other kind of related Google services either. There's no Facebook or Meta services, so no Instagram. And China has kind of developed its own separate ecosystem of tech giants. You will have heard of some of them like Alibaba, but then also ByteDance, who are the owners of TikTok, and also the Chinese equivalent, Douyin, and a lot of other companies that kind of Tencent, people like that, who form part of this big ecosystem. With specific e-commerce in mind, there's been a huge shift in the market over the last 4 or 5 years. This line at the top is Alibaba's percentage share of the Chinese e-commerce market. I noticed the speaker before me, James from Shopify, was talking about the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th biggest e-commerce markets in the world. We're talking about the biggest e-commerce market in the world now, China. And Alibaba's market share has gone from a pretty dominant up kind of 50% kind of space of just 5 years ago down to an expected 40% this year. Their shelves haven't shrunk in that time, they've just not grown particularly strongly. And that trend, has been driven by 2 major entrants into the market. So one is Pinduoduo, who kind of came in a few years prior to that. You may know them in the West through their Live Like a Billionaire app, Temu, which is now their way of entering into all the Western markets. They are really pioneers in direct from factory direct from farm to consumers, cutting out a lot of middlemen. It's a lot of cheap price stuff that has kind of eaten Alibaba's lunch at the lower end of the market. And then Douyin here, which is TikTok, owned by ByteDance, is taking a lot of premium products and the interest in beauty and health, and really has innovated in that live streaming space, like we saw Rihanna doing, to take a lot of those higher value sales and mid-market sales in those categories, going from 0% up to almost an expected 15% this year, which is an absolutely, when you consider the size of China's e-commerce market, that makes them more than 7% of global e-commerce sales just through Douyin in the space of 5 years from absolutely nothing. Is there anything I've missed there? Yeah, social commerce is the big trend. So Alibaba, Pinduoduo, JD are more traditional kind of e-commerce pure players. There isn't a social media aspect to it. TikTok, Douyin is obviously a social media platform, but you're seeing a lot of the other social media players in China really enter that ecosystem now, which is why I've got this very confusing graph that I thought could be helpful, chart, which I thought could be helpful for everyone. A bit of a logo test for people as well. So we've got Little Red Book on the top. It's like an Instagram / Pinterest kind of platform. A lot of lifestyle content, about 300 million users, mostly wealthy people living in kind of the major urban centers in China, more skewed towards women. Started out as a social platform, so the instant messaging, the user-generated content and influencer content, paid advertising, that's their bread and butter. Over the last couple of years, they've added in e-commerce stores, so you can have your own store that's linked to your official account on the platform, as well as live streaming e-commerce, which you can do with third parties or you can do yourself. WeChat, perhaps the most recognizable logo after TikTok on here. Again, it does all of them. It's the home of instant messaging in China, which is why it gets the pluses. User-generated content, yes, but it's quite a closed platform, so it's not super visible. E-commerce, they've got different ways of doing that now, and they're innovating. It's a really small percentage of the market in terms of market share, despite having over 1 billion users, but it's got huge potential for growth. If we skip down a couple, that's TikTok, Douyin. Bilibili is a video platform. Weibo was big a few years ago. It's more Twitter-esque in its kind of way of working, or X, like X, I guess. And then these are the more traditional big players in Chinese e-commerce. Tmall, JD, they haven't gone into the kind of users messaging each other, user-generated content, pushing that out. There isn't that social aspect necessarily beyond the reviews that you can leave on a product page. But they do have some dominance in the e-commerce and live streaming e-commerce through being in the market for a long time. Cross-border, quick explanation of what that is on the basis of, it was in my title, so I probably ought to explain it. It's where a product is shipped from outside of China customs zone to direct to a consumer inside of the customs zone. There's specific rules around what you can do and how you can do that. Different tax rules apply. What I would say is you get a lot of data being published around this that is saying, oh, cross-border e-commerce is, like this chart, is growing at 15% this year. That covers both outbound from China to consumers everywhere else in the world and inbound into China. And most of the growth is coming from China to the rest of the world, cross-border e-commerce at the moment. Really good for beauty, health categories where it's complicated registrations. I'm just going to get onto our learnings in a minute. A lot of our work is in the luxury space, so if any of you have got any luxury brands that you want to talk about today, I'm more than happy to do that. China's represented 41% of physical store openings in the last year. It's got a growing luxury market. It's kind of splitting a little bit towards very high luxury and the more mainstream consumer now prioritizing value. But we've got a huge percentage of high net worths in China who are still looking to invest in luxury purchases. And we saw this report from Bain earlier this year. After a really difficult 2021 to 2022 during the pandemic period, luxury saw quite a big rebound after that had closed. So now onto the what can we learn from Rihanna section of the of the presentation. So, live streaming e-commerce. First thing we can learn, I think, is about embracing new technologies and the routes to market and going to where your customers are. So, live streaming is the #1 growth engine for Chinese e-commerce at the moment. There's almost no growth in Chinese e-commerce that isn't live streaming now. But there are some challenges that come from that. It's an activation, it's promotional. There's an expectation around discounting, there's an expectation around free gifts, so it can pile downward price pressure. You really need to have a strong price management policy in place. You need to have strong relationships with the live streamers in order to make sure that you're getting the right deals. It puts huge stock pressure on you if it goes well. You can sell 3 months of stock in a minute. If it's a good day with the right live streamer, you can go from 0 to 100 very, very quickly. But if it then takes you 3 months to replenish that stock, you've lost all the momentum that you had on that SKU. So you need to have kind of some mitigations in place. Are you holding some stock back so that you can't sell out and you can provide at least full price daily sales for people? There's a bit of a balance to be found between having an in-house live streamer and third parties. By that I mean a celebrity or an influencer who's doing live streaming. You pay them a commission, the sales come through your store, but fundamentally it's their customer who's making the purchase. Your in-house live streamer, you could promote it to people who are your fans and your followers. The reach will be smaller, but you're not paying 25-30% commission to a third party, so it is more profitable on a smaller scale. Chinese live streamers ask for the most information I've ever been asked about anything is working with Chinese live streamers. You'll have to, if you claim anything about your product, you have to have certification documentation to back it up. And sometimes you have to have it redone in China just so that they'll believe it, because they're not necessarily familiar with the systems for certification that we've got. So if you have a China partner that's asking you for those things, they're not leading you down the garden path, right? It is a demand from live streamers, because ultimately their brand is bringing authentic products to people, and they want to be like ironclad sure that they're bringing the best stuff to people and that it is what they say it is. It also suffers from high cancellation rates. It's an impulsive purchase. Somebody opens their social media account, they're browsing through, they come across a live stream, somebody's selling a really nice face cream or some vitamin C supplements or whatever it might be. They click purchase. 20 minutes later, they think, oh, I've just spent 40 quid. What have I absolutely done? And they go back and cancel it. So you do get kind of 20-30% cancellation on live streams as well. A bit of a trend in the live streaming space is this move towards a more luxury style of live streaming. If we just go back, this guy, Austin Lee, is the most famous live streamer in China. His catchphrase is like, buy it, buy it, buy it, right? It's like quite high pressure, high octane, really like speaking quickly, explaining everything, getting through products every 10 minutes. In contrast, these two women have become incredibly successful and popular on social platform Little Red Book. So we've got Dongjie on the right and Teresa Zhang on the left. Teresa was in the UK fairly recently. They do slow live streaming. It's a lot more kind of relaxed. They're focused on curating a set of products that they really love and they really believe in. They live stream a lot less frequently. And the kind of result, they'll do a tour of their house, they'll read some poetry, they'll kind of bring the viewer into their life a little bit more. The barrier to working with them is that they are very influential and they can cost a lot of money to get a slot with, but they do have an incredible impact as well. Big trend too, and it kind of links to what I was saying there, is that social commerce has become one of the big growth engines of Chinese online activity. What that means is consumers' attention is becoming really divided between a lot of different platforms. So stats from before, so 27 hours spent in the WeChat ecosystem every month, so almost an hour a day. You've got 100 million red active users, 300 million total users. Douyin up to 11.4% of the e-commerce market share. There was also, I think it's gone down a bit now, but when people were in lockdown in China, They were spending on average 88 minutes a day on Douyin, the active users, so it was a really kind of sticky ecosystem where people were spending a lot of time and money. All that means is users are being constantly bombarded, right? If you are active on 1, 2, 3, 4 of the social media platforms in China, you're not just getting content messaging, you're getting e-commerce messaging, you're getting sales messaging, brand official messaging, influencer messaging, messages from your friends, you're getting everything coming at you all at once. So having a strategy that's going to cut through all of that is the most important consideration if you're going to enter China through this market. Opening a store on Red, if you don't do something to make yourself desirable and to raise your brand awareness, you're not going to get anywhere. So that leads me to the third main pillar, which is brand marketing and investing in brand. So it's a long-term market. I think we've had a bit of a period of people neglecting this element of their strategy for China over the last few years. When e-commerce was growing at 10, 20% a year, it was very, very easy to not invest in the long term for your marketing because there was growth opportunities everywhere and you can just chase those short-term activations. But as we move to a more moderate period of growth for China and moderate period of spending growth while the economy works through some issues, we've got an increased cost for acquiring customers. So every customer you get is costing you more than it did 5 years ago. You've got a more diverse set of routes to market. Before, you could maybe open a store on Alibaba's Tmall. That would be your official store. You could try and drive all your traffic there and push everything through. Now you've got to follow the consumer around a little bit more and have more of a intelligent 2024 strategy to where your customer is. You've got to think about what you can do that's going to make you stand out from the crowd. China isn't like it was 15, 20 years ago when very few consumer brands, international consumer brands, had entered the market. Now you've got all the best Japanese and Korean brands, all the best US, European brands, Australian brands, all competing, and that's not to mention all the unbelievable Chinese brands that have started springing up over the last 5 years that are competing on quality with international brands, but have massive advantages in speed, adaptability to the market understanding, and they can really get ahead. So you've got to be really confident in your USPs, confident in your products, that you've got something that you're going to give people a reason to buy. So what's the kind of Tong approach to building this? It's 3 stages. Decide what you're going to do, get people to hear about your brand, and then go into social commerce. So strategy, defining your tone of voice, brand identity, what the right channels for you to play in are, followed by activating, so actually then going in and doing that marketing strategy, identifying some collaborations with influencers, KOLs as they call them in China, paid media, it could be working in traditional PR, it depends on your brand, and then at the end, doing the unlock demand stage, which is about social commerce. I'm going to do a very quick case study for something we did for that starting period of the strategy and the activation for a brand. So this is Mui, who are a Dutch high-end furniture brand that we work with. Been working with them about 3 years now, and the initial brief was build a strategy, build a plan for how we're going to get from nobody having heard of us in China to inbound inquiries from customers and inbound inquiries from trade through social media activations. So set out the plan, we launched them on the social media channels that were relevant for them at the time. We're now in our second 24-month roadmap with them, but in that period, we get 1 or 2 inquiries a month from credible B2B partners who want to work with them in showrooms or retail stores. We get inquiries from customers who want to know where they can buy it locally in China or where they can see the product. And we do things throughout the year that boost the awareness massively, spending a little bit of money on social advertising or something that's going to enhance their content around a particular event. Might be the Architecture Week in Milan or an event that they're doing that really enhances the profile. This Works is another brand, so we weren't doing the sales activation for this brand, We were working closely with their distributor, hand in hand, and we were consistently delivering doubling of GMV. That hasn't happened this year. The market slowed down a bit in China. But essentially, it was a combination of their distributor taking care of the sales-driven activations, where to play, which live streamers to work with, what discounts to apply, what offers to do, and us making sure that the brand was coherent across all the places that they were available. So we did redesigns of their Tmall store, helped them with telling one story to Chinese customers that they could find across all different channels, and then helping them to look at new platforms as well, where they hadn't quite discovered customers in the last few years. They've been in the market quite a long time. So looking at Bilibili, which is quite a Gen Z-focused video platform, and Douyin, which was emerging a few years ago when we started working on that platform for them. I'm going to skip over that one. Social commerce, our sister agency, Yasso, does this on our behalf. On their own behalf, but we work closely with them. They have a slightly different model. I don't work on this specifically, so I can't go through it. But if you want to talk to them, I'm happy to put you in touch. What's coming up with us? We've got a luxury travel report coming out in September, so if you want to know about Chinese inbound travel to the UK, how people want to spend their money, what the trends are in that space, we've done some surveys, interviews, big insight pieces. Sign up to our newsletter, you'll be able to download it. It's going to be available for free in exchange for your data. And then in-person events, we'll be partnering with the China-Britain Business Council for an event in Q4. That'll be here in London. We're planning a conference for next year on the overseas Chinese consumer, and we're launching a new networking platform for Chinese marketing professionals and people who are interested in China marketing in the UK. If you want to follow us, we've got a monthly newsletter. The links are here. There's a follow me on LinkedIn. There's not many Jack Porteous out there, so should be easy to find. And Tong Global is our company name. We share all of our insights there. So thank you very much. I think I finished on time.